Let me ask you guys, since when did it become okay for CEOs and other company executives to do mass layoffs on a yearly basis? I mean, of all the tools in their leadership toolkit, mass layoff seems to be the most preferred method. Not CEO and C-suite level pay cuts, not shareholder pay cuts. They just go straight to mass layoffs, don't they? And like this one video said, it's creating a massive trust crisis right here for US workers. Here, check this out.
So, I mean, I've spoken about this for ages, which is I do not believe mass layoffs are a great strategy on an annualized basis to balance the books. Layoffs happen in extreme examples, in extreme cases that are existential to save a business. But the way we use them so easily and so quickly, I think too many leaders don't realize the damage they do, or if they do realize it, they don't care, the damage they do to the culture and the trust that they destroy simply to make the numbers work. And what's more distressing, you see this in public companies, for example, is mass layoffs are announced. Like Disney just laid off 7,000 people and their stock price went up 3.5%. Like, what is wrong with that? And that's because we're rewarding people literally for managing short-term numbers. So what leaders can do to avoid the trust deficit that happens when you have mass layoffs is stop using mass layoffs to balance the books. That's how you fix it.
And I just found out that, as it turns out, February was marked as the third worst month when it came to tech layoffs. And it's not just the people getting laid off that was affected. It says here, remote work and mass layoffs are creating a 7-day work week and erasing old job boundaries. Do you guys have the same feeling? Like you're working so much more and earning so much less? Yeah. And what's worse is that these layoffs are probably set to continue, especially with automation techs taking some big leaps and bounds. I went to McDonald's recently after so long. I actually was there picking up something for somebody else. They virtually had no staff. You just press your order at the kiosk and wait for it to show up. Most of the back kitchens probably automated too. So yeah, these automation-caused layoffs are probably going to continue as well. But you know what? Workers from certain sectors, they may escape. Now, while it's difficult to predict the future of job automation with certainty, there are a few job categories that are less likely to be fully automated by AI in the near future. It's all about diversification and diversifying your skills. So definitely pay attention to what's happening. And I got a lot to share with you guys later in this video. And speaking of diversification, also don't forget to diversify your assets. I'll leave a link for you guys down below for where I like to get my gold from. But let's talk about some of the automation-proof jobs, and we're going to see how you can still manage a career switch even if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. Stick around until the end of this video, guys. Now, sure, February layoff numbers for the US tech sector, they were lower than those in January. But really, that's not actually saying much. Tech companies aren't breaking up their employees at the scale that we saw in January, which, by the way, was one of the biggest layoff months since we began tracking job cuts data in 2022, with over 65,000 layoffs. So February, by comparison to the brutal month before, it seems relatively tame. But February still saw around 28,000 US tech employees losing their jobs. This made it the third largest layoff month since the start of 2022. While public companies have spent the last few months zigzagging in layoff numbers, startups, they still continue cutting employees at pretty steady pace. In fact, for US-focused startups, February was the second largest layoff month after November 2022. January's layoffs were coming largely from public companies, which were responsible for a record 93% of laid off US tech workers that month. Just to name a few, Google parent company Alphabet slashed its workforce by 12,000 people, while Amazon and Microsoft, they let go 8,000 and 10,000 employees respectively. And like what was said in the clip that I showed you guys, it was all pretty much to appease the investors and Wall Street gods because several of the cuts came ahead of or during disappointing Q4 earnings reports. Fintech platform Affirm announced during its earnings call that it was going to slash 19% of its workforce following missed revenue expectations. 3 days before its Q4 earnings call, Twilio announced it was going to be laying off 15,000 people. Now, if we go ahead and fast forward to February, large tech companies only made up about 82% of layoffs, still the majority by a long shot, but we saw the worst number in November when 88% of workforce cuts were driven by public tech firms. In February, Ericsson laid off around 8,500 workers, while Dell, they cut 6,600 roles. It's also worth noting that since 2022, about a quarter of public companies that announced layoffs announced additional cuts in the following months. Some, such as Netflix, Twitter, and even Peloton, they did 3 rounds of layoffs over the course of 14 months. Now, I warned you guys that this was coming. But let's talk about layoffs in the startup companies. February was the second largest layoff month after November. Over 5,000 employees were let go last month. including those from companies such as Pico Interactive. They laid off 400, and Cerebral just cut 285 employees. That's because the startup situation hasn't really changed much. Venture funding is still down year over year, and most companies are still struggling to find capital. So unless you're OpenAI, in which case everyone wants a piece of you, what with ChatGPT and all, right? Venture folks predict that investments will start picking up once valuations come down, which we're already starting to see that. So at this point, workers are just disassociating and getting ready for the hammer to fall. A friend and I were talking about this the other day. So my buddy refuses OT. He don't like to work overtime. He won't work it. I told him that when the time comes, you could very well be one of the ones to be laid off. It's going to come down to the people who don't work overtime or are not putting in the extra effort that are probably going to be the ones laid off or getting fired. He said, let them fire me. I don't even care. I told him it's not going to be just your company. It'll be with all companies. But you know what? I've also heard about other companies just slashing jobs, even with people who do all the OT all the time. So you never really can know when you're safe with these bosses. This is why I always talk about creating multiple streams of income, so you don't have to really worry about that. Plus, all these layoffs and talk of remote work are basically, they're making people feel like they have to do a 7-day work week with basically no job boundaries. Screw that. Hit the like button if you guys agree. Now, we've heard about this great resignation, right? Quiet quitting, chaotic working, where employees basically take control of their work lives. But 3 years on, as businesses slowly, largely trickle back to normal, employees are increasingly having to juggle new boundaries. Working over the weekends. People are feeling forced to work a week that has no end. For some industries, the number of weekend work hours rose at a pretty steep pace. In the tech industry, the number of weekend work hours soared 31% to 11.5 hours on average, while media workers put in 53% more time on the weekends for an average of 10.7 hours. Now, these are the very same industries where we saw massive layoffs, the likes of Amazon, Alphabet's Google, Salesforce, and even Twitter. Now, the very same report acknowledges the connection. So first, mass layoffs, especially in tech, they made it necessary for employees to pile on a greater workload to make up for the shortfall in the headcount. Second, employees trying to escape virtual calls and meetings in the hybrid workplace, they're increasingly finding weekends to be the only time they can get free of distractions. Now, the problem with working remote is that you don't exactly know when it ends. Some women have struggled to draw boundaries when hybrid work schedules and workers may miss out on professional benefits like autonomy and connectivity. Burnout seems to be becoming a part of the new norm too. Burnout among American workers continues at an alarming rate of 89% in 2022. And while companies are being more proactive in helping their employees get the support that they need, even high-level executives, they're going through the same struggles. But I don't know, guys. If you ask some of the older generations, they would tell you that layoffs and exploiting the remaining skeleton crew model has been around since the 1970s. I just want to say, don't feel like you always have to overextend yourself with the illusion of wealth. Really, it's financial freedom that we're after. Now, with all that said, we can totally check out some layoff-proof jobs. Top of the list is cybersecurity. Automation is going to need some major security upgrades, and that makes cybersecurity a priority. In fact, experts say that cybersecurity jobs could even increase during the economic turmoil. According to tech managers, quote, some organizations may become more vulnerable during a recession as they have fewer resources, making them an easier target. End quote. In research among 1,000 C-suite executives across 5 countries, Germany, Japan, Singapore, the UK, and the United States, almost half the top-level executives said that they will likely resort to layoffs due to an anticipated recession this year. But here's what's interesting. Only 10% of the organizations are likely to cut jobs in cybersecurity, compared to an average of 20% in other areas. Other areas they say to be good are financing, HR, marketing, and sales. In fact, some tech workers were laid off. They're now switching over to more automated proof sectors where they can easily apply related skills and expertise. It's never too late, guys. A friend of mine switching careers at 46 years old and training to be a pharmacy technician. On-the-job training that will be paid for. It's not the best pay, but the benefits are better than he ever had. Now, while it's difficult to predict the future of job automation for sure, there are a few job categories that are a lot less likely to be fully automated by AI and ChatGPT in the future. So first, jobs that require creativity and originality. Now, these jobs include artists, writers, musicians, and designers. Jobs that require more emotional intelligence empathy, and human connection, those are a lot less likely to be automated by AI. And so these jobs like therapists, social workers, customer service representatives, also jobs that require physical dexterity, agility, flexibility like plumbers, electricians, construction workers, those jobs are safe for the most part. Complex decision making and strategic planning is also another thing that should be safe from AI and from automation. So think about jobs like managers, executives, and analysts. Jobs that require human supervision and oversight are less likely to be automated by AI. So these include jobs like teachers, trainers, and coaches. So just remember, it's important for workers to stay continuously updating their skills and knowledge to remain competitive in the job market. And for those in their 30s, 40s, 50s, it's still definitely not too late to switch career tracks. Really, first and foremost is you can always start small. Take on a small part-time job, maybe freelancing in the new field to gain some experience and test the waters. You can take inventory of your existing skills and expertises and think about how they could apply to your desired new career. Transferable skills can include things like communication, problem solving, organization, and even leadership, depending upon the new career that you guys are interested in. You may acquire additional training or education to be competitive in the job market, but that's okay. This can include taking classes or obtaining certifications. Some bosses actually pay you to go through those trainings anyway. So learn as much as you can about the new career that you're interested in, including required skills, qualifications, job prospects. This will help you determine if it's a good fit for you and how to prepare for the transition. Network with people in your field. Connect with people who work in the field that you're interested in to learn more about that industry and to gain insights into what it takes to succeed. You could also attend industry events, join professional organizations, and reach out to people on social media platforms like LinkedIn. Leverage it all, guys. Just be flexible about the whole process. Switching career tracks, it can obviously be challenging with setbacks and challenges along the way, but as someone who's actually done it, it is totally worth it. I went from, making $40,000 a year to as much as $200,000 a year from a single job. But understandably, I hopped between multiple jobs in order to make that happen. And I was picking up skills along the way. So yeah, it is never too late to make a career change, and many people successfully switch career tracks in their 30s and 40s. It's really a matter of getting the right mix of dedication, hard work, and willingness to learn. Now, just let me know if you guys want to learn more about side hustle ideas, job ideas that you can check out. Comment section is wide open as always, you guys. Always love hearing from you guys. And by the way, if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the video description down below. And hey, more updates in my future videos. This was today's employment update and daily news report. The tech sector jobs racking up more layoffs, 7-day work weeks, and why automation is taking over. Plus, how you can AI proof your job and make that career switch in your 30s or your 40s. Don't forget to share this video, guys. Appreciate you guys dropping the likes for the videos. Please be kind to one another, and I will see you guys on the next video.